So we're going to go to Menu, Admin, Preferences, and then System. And we come to this screen, you'll see here in the upper left-hand corner under Defaults is the processing year. So the processing year is the year in which your candidates or summer associates come into the firm. I'm going to leave it for 2022 for today's training, but this is where they would change that. The other item that they would also change is still from the Systems tab, but over here to the right on the General dashboard, you'll see SA Filter. So these are the dates in which the summers are entering and starting their internship at the firm, and then their end date. Now we see some different best practices. Some firms will just put in the entire calendar year dates from January 1 to 12/31 of that particular year. And then other firms will have the SA filter just for that particular window of time that the summers are working at the firm. So for example, if they're there for a 6-week period, the firms then would enter in that 6-week period. But what else is important as a best practice is that we tell our clients to extend that 6-week period by 2 weeks before and even 2 to 3 weeks after those dates, just in the event the summers either start early or they extend their internship. That way they still have access to all of their information. So there's multiple ways that the firms can handle that. The next thing that we're going to talk about is the office preferences. So we're going to go to Menu, Admin, Preferences, Office, and then we're going to click on the Summer Associate. From here, you'll see some different categories to ensure that it's set up correctly. So for the evaluation form, you want to make sure that the correct Summer Associate evaluation form is tied to the evaluation. If the firm wants to show project attachments, they would check this box. On the consolidated evaluation options, you'll see show completed evaluations. You can check this box if you want to show the completed evaluations, and if not, you just leave it unchecked. And then you'll see over here to the right, the supporting page dashboard for theme. So you'd want to select the supporting pages theme for that. And then you could also apply the theme to the evaluation by just checking this box. On the project status dashlet, you'll see here submission form. This is just the status that the firms are going to choose. For me, I'm choosing in progress, but this is really a preference for the firm. They could put it into a pending status. They could put it in consideration, on hold, anything that they may have from their maintenance tables. You'll also see main system is going to be an option here for status. And then the Micron portal, also a status. So I just have mine consistent as in progress. And then you'll see mark all projects created global by default. So what this means is if there are summers in multiple offices, if you want those summers in multiple offices to have access to projects, regardless of what office they're assigned to, you can check this box. And that way the summers can see all projects. Now, if this is unchecked, then that just means it's turning off the default. But as you're setting up projects and assigning them, you also have the option on that specific project to check the box for global. So this is just your choice kind of at that higher level. And then email options. So the email alias is not an email address. It's actually the name of the sender for the email. So as you can see here, I just have my firm name of Pratt & Pratt Summer Program. And then the reply to is an email address. It can only be one email address in this particular case. And then you can determine here for automatically sending the email evaluations, you can check that box or leave it unchecked if you would rather generate that on your own. And then the dunning notices. What a dunning notice is really the reminder, or as we like to call it, the nudge notice. So it's just continuing to remind a supervising attorney that has not completed an evaluation. And then there's reminders that will go out on a regular cadence, which you determine here. So you would check the dunning notice box, and then you would identify that cadence. So start dunning notices after, and then in my case, I have 2 days set, but you can choose from the drop down, whatever you'd like that cadence to be. And then you can also determine how many days after the project is completed when they'll receive that reminder. So in this case, every 5 days for the next 10 days. Also, you'll see over here the auto email dunning type. You have two options where you can send individual and consolidated. And what that means is if you have a supervising attorney that might have 5 summers working for them and they haven't completed those evaluations, the reminders can go out individually. So that means that supervising attorney would get 5 separate emails requesting them to complete the evaluation. Or if you check the radio button for consolidated, what that means is that supervising attorney will receive 1 email with 5 reminders within that 1 email. And here again, it's just really a preference on the firm, how they like to handle that. Then the next item down is when a project is assigned, you can send an email notification to. And then the summer associate is to receive that notification, and the submitting attorneys, you would just check those boxes or leave them unchecked if you'd prefer them not to receive those. And then the on-demand email upon project assignment completion, I have mine set to prompt to send that project assignment evaluation, but you can also choose the auto send, which means they'll automatically go out overnight, or you can choose do not prompt at all. And then you'll also have the on-demand email upon the general evaluation creation. And the difference is these evaluations are specific to projects. And then a general evaluation, what that means is it's an evaluation that might take place maybe midway through their internship or at the end of their internship. So you can just get a high-level overview of feedback during their entire duration of time with the firm. And then over here, you'll see the email addresses. This is for the project submitted, project completed, project assigned, and the evaluation completed. And as you can see, I have my email address in here. Whenever you see an email field, this can be up to 3 emails. Just make sure that you're separating those email addresses by a comma or a semicolon. We also see firms using distribution lists. So if there's more than 3 people in their HR team that need to receive any kind of notifications, they can create a distribution list and then put that email address in here as well. And then the other thing that's important to point out here for the summer associate is, once again, this is by office. So any type of settings that you make here, if you want that then to apply to other offices, you can use that clone setting by just clicking into that clone button down here in the lower right-hand corner. And then you would make your determination from which office you're wanting to clone and then to which offices. In my case, I have all 6 selected. And then you would click on that submit button. The next thing that we're going to talk about is summer emails. So we're in the right location. We're at Summer Associate tab. And if you come over 2 tabs to email setup, so as you can see here, there's going to be a new project created email, project admin notification, meaning that the administrator would get a notification for a project starting, project attorney notification. So if summer is assigned to a project, then the attorney would get that notification. It's been completed. Project summer associate notification means that the notification would go to the summer associate. And then the summer associate evaluation confirmation email. This means that once the evaluation is completed, a confirmation goes out. And then you'll also see the summer associate evaluation, the summer associate evaluation resend, summer associate evaluation resend consolidated, which here again, this just goes back to that individual message versus the consolidated message like we talked about earlier. And then there's the reminders. So these are related to those dunning notices. So the evaluation reminder and then the evaluation reminder consolidated. So if they don't say consolidated, then those would refer to those individual messages. So we're going to select, we'll just select one of these summer associate evaluation. And then from here, my template comes up and you can select your theme, which will be email. You can evaluate what you want to be in your subject line, and then you can modify the format to this email. So we're just going to do some simple formatting here. And then just as a reminder, once again, anytime you see any information in brackets, that's referring to a token that's found over here on the available fields. You do not want to make any kind of changes to anything in that bracket. And then similarly, if you wanted to add anything into the message, you can do that from here just by clicking into the location that you want that token to be added to, and then you select the token and it will insert it for you. And then you can add anything into the footer that you need to. And then you would click save. You'll see that your save is successful. And then once again, remember, this is by office. So if you want this letter to be applicable not only to the Denver office, but to your other offices, then you would click that clone button. And once again, you would go through that process of determining which office you're cloning from, what offices you're cloning to, the category, and then for email type, you would select your summer associate and you'd select your template for notification, and then you would click the submit button and you would receive your confirmation. First thing that has to be done is all summers have to be added into the recruiting module first. So we're going to go into menu, recruiting applicants, and we're going to click on the add button and we're going to add a new summer. I'm going to enter in the required fields. We're going to, for applicant type, change that to summer associate. We're going to enter in a law school. We'll put in the JD year. Here again, this is the year in which they're graduating with their degree, their law degree. So we're going to put in 2024. If you have an address, you can add that here. We're not going to add an address for sake of time today, but you would obviously enter that in. We're going to add in the email address. We'll confirm with the duplicate checker that we do not have a duplicate profile. In this case, we're going to click skip. The position, as you can see, I'm selecting summer associate, and that's based upon my applicant type that I've already selected as summer associate. And we will set them into a pending status. If I had their resume, I would attach it here. If I had their picture, we would attach it here. And then we're going to click save. All right, so now we have our applicant, Carrie Maddie, in the recruiting module. So now we're going to go to menu, summer program, and then into summer associates. So the first thing that we'll talk about is searching your summer associates. So it's similar to searching in the other modules. You can search in the header by the last name or first name. You can search here in the search dashboard by name. You can change the arrival date, offices, department positions. You'll also see here over to the right is the more filters link. And then you have some additional fields that you can narrow down your search as well. By clicking on the search button, then you'll see the summers that you already have in your system. And like the other searches, if you click on the links, that will then take you right into those summer profiles. Next, we'll talk about adding your summer. So from that search tab, you're going to click on the add button in the lower right-hand corner. And then we'll search here for Carrie's name. So we're going to enter in her last name. You'll see that it's retrieving that from the text query field. I can also click on the magnifying glass if I needed to. And then for application, you'll want to make sure that you're selecting the current application. So in this case, she only has one application, but if she had applied and even worked for the firm last year as a summer, then you want to make sure that you have the right application chose from that dropdown. You'll also see here anything that is in this pink box means that you cannot edit anything from this location, meaning you can't change her processing year, her email address, her law school, her JD year from this screen. But how you would edit that is you would just go back to menu, recruiting, search for Carrie Maddie, and then you can make changes to those fields from the recruiting module. So we'll drop down here to the summer associate ID and we'll give her an ID of CM. You could enter a social security number if you had it, her date of birth, her grad date, any journals that she might be associated with, honors, and then her office. And then for office location, the SA room, so in the environment where a summer associate may be working in an office, you can identify which room they're working in. If they were to have a secretary, you could add that here. if there's an office extension in terms of their phone number, and then the secretary extension for a phone number. And then this is where you're going to put the summer associate email. And then if you had a secretary email, you would add that here as well. And then you'll assign a arrival date. So for sake of training today, we're going to say that she's going to start with us on December 26th. You don't need to put in a departure date if you don't want to. And then if the firms are using the single sign-on ID, then that's where that information would get added. And then if we hadn't already added the resume, you can add that here. And if you had, you would see it selected here. And then in this case, if you wanted to add any language that they speak outside of their first language, you can add that here as well. And then any kind of comments. So we'll click save. You'll see that the save was successful. And now you have added your new summer, the additional information tab. So here on this tab, you can add their summer associate address. This may be different than the address that you set up on the recruiting profile. In most cases, the summers will have two addresses. They may have a home address and then a school address. So this just gives you the opportunity to capture that secondary address here. And then for practice area, you can fill in the practice area in which they may be working. Once again, this is one of those text query boxes, so you could just put your cursor into that field. You can also rank it as a priority by entering a number for priority. If you tab out of that, then you can add additional practice areas if you need to. And then for mentors, you can add up to 3 mentors that are associated with Carrie. You can either put your cursor into the field and start typing, like on the magnifying glass, and run a search. You can also then check the box if you want them to be CC'd on project notifications. Now, keep in mind, this is just for project notifications. The mentors will not have access to any evaluations. This is just for project, and you would tick those boxes. And then if the summer is split, maybe between either your firm and another firm, you can identify that firm name by entering that information here as well. And then for team and current rotation, if they're assigned to a specific team, you can add that here. And if they're on a different rotation, so they might be in 2 different departments during their time with their internship, so you could add those here as well, and then you can indicate a start date. And then in my test database, I have 2 custom fields set up, which, as you can see here, one is, do they need a visa to work in the US? And do they have a personal credit card? And if that was the case, then I would check those boxes. And then once again, anytime you make changes to a screen, always make sure that you click the save button. The next thing that we're going to talk about then is projects. So we're going to click back to menu, summer program, and then we're going to select the projects subcategory. So once again, as you know, when you enter into a new module, you'll always come to the search screen. Your search, once again, is similar. You can search in the header, you can search within your fields. This also has more filters that you can customize that search as well. We're going to leave our defaults as they are, and we'll click the search button. And you'll now see that we have a total of 24 different projects. You can navigate using the arrows and your scroll bar. And then if I wanted to go into any of the projects, I would just click on the link of the ID. If I wanted to add a project, I would just click on this lower right-hand button that says Add. So we'll click on Add. We're going to assign this project to the Denver office. Like we talked about earlier when we were looking at system settings, I had my global project defaulted to be checked. Now here again, you can uncheck this if you want this only to be visible to your summer associates that are assigned to the Denver office, or you can leave it checked if you want it to be global. Today, we'll leave it checked as global. For the project title, we will enter in a project title and identify the status. Once again, this was the status from my default under my settings, but you can change that here. If you have opposing counsel, you could add that here. If there is a client matter number associated with this project, you can enter it here, or you can even search for it if you wanted to add the client name and the client matter title, and then any kind of description. So we'll just call this CVS Legal. And then the next category down for supervising attorneys is where you can add those supervising attorneys for the project. As you can see, you can have up to 4 supervising attorneys. Once again, similarly, you can just type into this text query box, or you can click on the magnifying glass to search. Go ahead and select all of our offices today to search, and we'll choose Chris as our next supervising attorney. And then we'll choose Robert as our next supervising attorney. We'll leave 4 blank just for today. And then for dates, this category here for submitted, it's going to default to today's date, but you can always change that date. The assigned date will automatically populate for you. The do need to enter a start date. So we're going to enter the start date as the same day that they're starting with the firm. And then the completed date will also populate for you once the project is completed. And then for general, we can choose the project category. So in this case, we're going to call this, we'll say that it's billable in this particular case. We'll choose the practice area as oil and gas. As you can see, it's already defaulted for us based upon the initial setup. And then the time estimate. This is the amount of time that we think that this particular project is going to take. So we're going to put in 120 hours. The assignment type, if I click on this, then I can determine what type of assignment this is. For today, we'll select legal research from the dropdown. And then we can also select up to 3 total assignments. We'll leave these blank for training today, but if you wanted to add additional assignments, you have the ability to add up to 3. If there's a write-up required, you can check this box. If the write-up has been received, then you would come back in and check that box. For the number of summer associates, this is going to determine how many associates you can assign to this job for the CVS that we need 3 summer associates. And then you can also select the level of difficulty. Because these are our summer interns, we're going to select easy. But no, you can select anything from that drop-down. And then the document reference, you can add a link here, a hyperlink, that if the summer associates need access to a specific document, maybe it's instructions on how to, update the project or specifications of what they need to do for the project, those links can be added here under the document reference. All right, and then if there was any attachments, you could add that here the same way that we have seen throughout the application of LawCruit. You would just click on select, it would point out to your desktop, and then you'd select the form. For today, we're just going to leave that blank, and then we're going to click save. We're going to say continue to the evaluation question, and now you'll see that I'm on the assignments tab. You'll see under evaluation type that the project evaluation is already populated for me. For the assignments, then this is where I would assign my summers. So in this case, we're going to add Carrie as our summer. Once again, anytime you see a magnifying glass, you can click on the magnifying glass to search. You'll see the date assigned is already populated for you. Your level of difficulty has been populated, and the assignment status has all been pulled forward from that previous screen. For evaluation, you'll see that the evaluation category is standard, but if you click on this, I can choose that this is either exiting summer, general, midsummer, standard, or written. I'm going to leave it in that standard category. Just know that you have some options here. And then for evaluation form, once again, I have mine defaulted to the Summer Associate General Evaluation form, but if I click on the drop-down, you'll see that I have other options here. Actually, I'm going to change this to the project evaluation since we're talking about projects. And once again, remember, if you see this link that says view form, or if the icon is just a little piece of paper, you can click on that link and then it will provide you a snapshot of what that evaluation looks like. So you can just ensure you're going to be sending out the right one to those supervising attorneys. And then if there's any evaluation notes, you can enter those here as well. And then you'll see that the evaluators in this little dashlet have already been pulled forward for you based upon that initial setup under description. You'll see their offices, their department, their position. You can also even add additional supervisors if you needed to by either typing in their name or clicking on the magnifying glass. Click the Save button. And now you'll see that our summer associate is Carrie. She's been assigned to the CVS legal project, and you can see that her evaluators are Mary, Steve, and Robert. You can see the dates that they were assigned, the assignment progress, that's all in progress, the category is standard, and then the evaluation form. You can also add additional assignments from here by just clicking Add Assignments. So I can just come back in and say if I wanted to add an additional summer here. Search, and we're going to select Catherine. Everything else is going to be defaulted the same as it was for Carrie. Remember, I can always go in and change any of this if I needed to, and then I would click on that Save button. You'll now see that I have assigned not only Carrie to the project, but also Catherine. Now, the other thing I want to show you is you can also, right from the project, assign a summer. So if I go back to search, I'm going to click search again, and here we'll just put in our project. You can come here to the project, and if you come all the way over to the right, you'll see this Add Plus button. If you click on the Add Plus button, then this will take you directly to that Assignments tab, and then once again, you can add your summer from here. So those are two different ways that you can add your summer. So if you needed to edit a project, you would search for that project title. You would go into the project by clicking onto the ID, and then you would make any kind of changes that you needed to here, and then click Save. However, there is an option to delete, but what's really important to know about deleting is if you've created the project, you haven't assigned it to anybody, and no evaluations have been completed, then you can delete the project. However, if you've assigned it to summers and evaluations have been completed, you do not want to delete that project. Okay, if you needed to delete a project, and if you click on delete, if this project is already tied to summer associates and their evaluating attorneys, and if those evaluating attorneys have completed an evaluation, you'll receive this pop-up, are you sure you want to delete this record, along with its associated information. So if you were to say yes to this, then it's going to delete all of that information associated with that information. So typically we would say in this case that you would want to say no, but just know that if you're saying yes, what you're actually saying yes to, that's going to delete all that associated information.